Hello friends, welcome back to Alligator YouTube channel. Today I will show you top 10 games like GTA 5 for low spec PC. All these games can run in a 2GB RAM PC easily, except on which I will tell in the video. So without any delay, let's start the video. On number 10 spot we have Far Cry 2. Far Cry 2 is a 2008 first-person shooter developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. It is the second installment of the main Far Cry series, preceded by 2004's Far Cry and followed by 2012's Far Cry 3. Far Cry 2 is a sequel to the original Far Cry. The game features an open-ended experience. Players are able to ally with one or multiple factions, and to progress through the game world and missions as they see fit, resulting in a non-linear style of gameplay commonly referred to as sandbox mode that allows the story to progress at their speed and in the order they choose. Players can use a range of vehicles, including cars, trucks, boats and hang gliders, to travel within the 50 square kilometers, 19 square miles, gameplay area. The playing styles range from head-on assaults to stealthy infiltrations and assassinations. The game takes place in a sprawling African landscape, with terrain ranging from desert to savanna to jungle. On number 9 spot we have The Godfather 2. The Godfather 2 is an open-world action-adventure video game developed by EA Redwood Shores and published by Electronic Arts for Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in April 2009. Based on the 1974 film The Godfather Part 2, it is the sequel to the 2006 game The Godfather, which was based on the 1972 film of the same name. Like the first game, The Godfather 2 follows a non-canon character, Dominic, who was initially the protege and underboss of the original game's protagonist, Aldo Trapani. After Aldo is killed, Dominic is placed in charge of the Corleone family's operations in New York City and tasked with expanding the Corleone empire by taking out their rivals. Unlike the first game, which was primarily set in New York, the story also spans into Miami and Havana. On number 8 spot we have Max Payne 2. Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne is a third-person shooter video game developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Rockstar Games in October 2003. It is the sequel to Max Payne 2001, and the second game in the Max Payne series. Max Payne 2 continues the story of the titular character, a detective for the New York City Police Department, Knipe, and former vigilante, as he is reunited with contract killer Mona Sachs and must work with her to resolve a conspiracy full of death and betrayal. Max Payne 2 is a third-person shooter, in which the player assumes the role of Max Payne, and plays as Mona Sachs in a few levels. 1. Initially, the player's weapon is a 9mm pistol. As they progress, players access weapons including other handguns, shotguns, submachine guns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, and hand-thrown weapons. To move the game along, the player is told what the next objective is through Max's internal monologue, in which Max iterates what his next steps should be. On number 7 spot we have Saints Row 2. Saints Row 2 is a 2008 action-adventure game developed by Volition and published by THQ. It is a sequel to 2006's Saints Row and the second installment in the Saints Row series. The game was released in October 2008 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, January 2009 for Microsoft Windows, and April 2016 for Linux. A mobile tie-in game was developed by G5 Entertainment and also released in October 2008. Saints Row 2 expands the first game's setting of Stillwater, a fictional city modeled after Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Baltimore, and continues the story of its unnamed player-created protagonist. After being in a coma for 5 years, 11, the player character awakens to discover that their gang, the 3rd Street Saints, have disbanded and their former territories have been taken by newly formed criminal gangs and a corrupt corporation. With the help of new and old allies, the player attempts to rebuild the Saints and take back Stillwater from their rivals. Story missions are unlocked by trading in respect points, currency earned by completing minigames and side missions. Outside of the main story, players can freely roam Stillwater, which has been expanded with new locations and consists of 2 main islands. The game is played from a third-person perspective and its world is navigated on foot or by vehicle. Players can fight enemies using a variety of firearms, and call in non-playable gang members to assist them. On number 6 spot we have Total Overdose. Total Overdose, The Gunslinger's Tale in Mexico is an open-world third-person shooter video game developed by Deadline Games and published by ATI Games for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Total Overdose is a third-person shooter open-world action-adventure game. Players assume control of Ramiro, Tommy and Ernesto. The most playable character in the game is Ramiro, while Tommy and Ernesto can be played only in the 2 beginning missions. The game parodies Robert Rodriguez's Mexico trilogy. Throughout the game, players can run and dive and have the ability to use weapons including shotguns, rifles, handguns and rocket launchers. While outside the missions the player can explore the open world of the game, but some regions will be available only during certain missions. The game features cheap and special cars. The special cars include Conquistador, Orange Dirt Bike, Purple and Flame Pickup, Tow Truck, D and military SUVs. Players have the ability to shot dodge, during which the player dives in any direction with a slow motion effect. This move gives players more accuracy in shooting enemies in combat. Loco moves are special attacks which players can pick up by scoring large numbers of points in combo kills. These moves can be used for eliminating heavy and a group of enemies. Players can perform 7 different kinds of Loco moves: Golden Gun, Tornado, El Toro, El Mariachi, Sombrero of Death, Explosive Piñata and Mad Wrestler, Misterioso. On number 5 spot we have L.A. Noire. L.A. Noire is a neo-noir detective action-adventure video game developed by Team Bondi and published by Rockstar Games. It was released in May 2011 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, in November 2011 for Microsoft Windows, and in November 2017 for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Set within Los Angeles in 1947, the story follows Detective Cole Phelps's rise among the ranks of the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, as he solves a range of cases across 5 divisions. L.A. Noire is an action-adventure neo-noir crime game played from a third-person perspective. The player completes cases, linear scenarios with set objectives, to progress through the story. The game also features a mode which allows the player to freely roam the open world and engage in optional activities. The world features multiple landmarks, which are all based on real monuments from 1940s Los Angeles. On number 4 spot we have Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 is a 2010 action-adventure game developed by Avalanche Studios, published by Eidos Interactive and distributed by Square Enix for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The sequel to 2006's Just Cause, it was powered by Avalanche Studios' Avalanche 2.0 engine. It features Rico Rodriguez, a major operative of the fictional agency who arrives at Panop, a fictional dystopian island nation in maritime Southeast Asia, to overthrow dictator Pantak Baby Pana and confront former mentor Tom Sheldon. The gameplay involves Rico fighting hostile militants with guns and a grappling hook, enabling players to tether objects to each other and slingshot into the air with a parachute. Just Cause 2 introduces the Chaos system, in which players must complete missions and destroy government property on Panop for Chaos points. These points are essential for story progression. On number 3 spot we have Mafia 2. Mafia 2 is a 2010 action-adventure game developed by 2K Czech and published by 2K Games. It was released in August 2010 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. The game is a sequel to 2002's Mafia and the second installment in the Mafia series. Set within the fictional city of Empire Bay during the mid-1940s and 1951s, the story follows Vitor Scaletta, a Sicilian-American mobster and war veteran, who becomes caught in a power struggle among the city's mafia crime families while attempting to pay back his father's debts and secure a better lifestyle. The game is played from a third-person perspective and its world is navigated on foot or by vehicle. The player character's criminal activities may incite a response from law enforcement agencies, measured by a wanted system that governs the aggression of their response. Development began in 2003, soon after the release of the first Mafia game. At release, Mafia 2 received generally positive reviews from critics, with praise particularly directed at the story, gameplay and characters, but the restrictive world design and lack of features from other sandbox games was criticized. On No. 2 spot we have Yakuza Kiwami. Yakuza Kiwami is an action-adventure video game developed by Sega. It is a remake of Yakuza 8, the first game in the Yakuza series. Like the original game, Yakuza Kiwami is an action-adventure game with role-playing elements set in an open-world environment and played from a third-person perspective. The player controls protagonist Kazuma Kura as he explores the streets of Kamurocho, a fictional district of Tokyo based on the real-life Kabukicho district. In addition to the main story, players will randomly encounter enemies on the street to battle, as well as meet people that will offer Kura side quests which can be completed for rewards. On number 1 spot we have Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs is an action-adventure video game developed by United Front Games and published by Square Enix's European subsidiary. Set in contemporary Hong Kong, the story follows Wei Shen, an undercover Chinese-American police officer on assignment to infiltrate the Sun On Yee triad organization. Gameplay focuses on Shen's fighting, shooting and parkour abilities, and on gadgets that can be used for combat and exploration. Players must complete missions to unlock content and continue the story, but they may instead freely roam the game's open-world environment and engage in both legal and criminal activities. The latter may incite a police response, the intensity of which is controlled by a heat system. Actions such as fighting, driving and racing grant Shen statistical rewards and earn the player achievements. All of these are good games and can be easily played on a low-spec PC, and the game on number 2 spot requires 4 GB RAM, except that all other games can be played on 2 GB RAM, and the system requirements of all games are in the description. You can refer them and make sure your PC can run it. So that's all for today's video. If you liked the video, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.